Hi students, how are you doing?
Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. We're well here. So,
Um, Today we're going to be doing some writing and we're going to go over some of the things that we did last time.
but before that, let me make a little announcement.
Yeah.
We're going to, For the Nations is going to have another drive-through day. If you missed the one in April, May 1st, we'll have a second one, and they're going to be giving away food and books and videos and you don't want diapers. You don't want to miss it.
Yeah, no,
Be a
it's going
good
to be
thing.
good.
Be a good thing to go to.
Yeah.
So it'll be between, I think it's 11 and 3, but we'll give you more information as
We'll
it gets
remind
closer.
you again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. So last week, you remember we were in the White Book, and we gave you an assignment on the reading section. We did the reading on page 119, and we gave you an assignment on page 120. So we're going to review a little of that for you today.
Right.
Okay? So pause your computer and go get your white book and turn to page 119 so we can talk about it together. Great. So you remember this story here. We talked about it that people had a fire. And in this whole unit 9, there's been several different stories we've given you that had different things that happened that were kind of emergencies, right? So the very first story was there was a burglar, and now this one there's a fire. We talk about that a lot in this chapter. So
That's right.
What do you want to review about this story that's here? Can we review the story?
Yeah, this is the story where they had the fire destroyed their home, and there were a lot of new words that you had to use too, like evacuate. So remember, the fire got closer to their home, and they were forced to leave their house. Then you had to put these in order. So let's see how you did on that.
Yeah.
So you might see I've got these up on the top of the screen. So at the very beginning, before all this started, Pedro lost his job. So that was the first problem that they had.
So wow, Pedro was feeling bad because he lost his job and he had the responsibility of his family. And then Luisa told him good news, right? Number 2. Luisa told Pedro she was pregnant.
Right, and I think they already had several children, right?
Yeah,
they had 5 already.
They had 4 already, I think.
No, this was going to be their 6th child. Yeah. So that was really happy news, except he was worried about how he was going to support his family. So that was another new word that they gave you. Support was like, how is he going to pay for everybody in the family? So
number 3 is?
3 is Pedro and Luisa heard about a fire that was near their house. So the fire is not burning their house yet, but the fire is near their house.
Oh, my, that made me nervous.
Yeah, that's not good news. So maybe they heard about it on the news. Then number 4.
The police came by and ordered everybody, all the people in the neighborhood to evacuate.
Right. So you know it's an emergency if they say you have to evacuate. So that's really when something's dangerous. Like sometimes they say you have to evacuate if there's a flood, something like that. So evacuate was also one of the new words. So it just means everybody has to leave their home. That was when they gathered their papers together. You remember that?
Yep.
Yeah. So that was number 4. Number 5, the fire destroyed Pedro and Luisa's home. So that was really sad that happened. But they were able to get their pictures and their documents together.
So wow, think about Pedro. He's got 5 kids, the 6th one on the way. He lost his job, and then he lost his house. He wants to support his family. He wants to take care of them. Everything's going bad.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, the Ramirez family stayed with Luisa's sister for 3 months.
So that was good. They had a place to stay.
They had a place to stay. They weren't out on the street.
Yeah.
And if you remember in the story, during that time, they got lots of help from a lot of different people.
Yeah, one of your words was generous. So
People were very generous with them.
Remember, generous meant, it's like the opposite of selfish. So when people want to give, that means they are generous. So many people were
So
generous.
their friends and their family and even strangers, people they didn't know.
People,
generous.
I think people gave bicycles and clothes, food. So people were so generous. And then it ends the story with Louisa mailed out her holiday cards. So
you remember what she said in her holiday card? Home is more than a building. Home is wherever there is love.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gave the idea of what a home is. So that's your story. Then down here, it said for you to find these words in the story and to underline them. And the reason they have you do that is because it's good to look at the words around your vocabulary words and to see if you can figure out the meaning from context, that's called. So you look at the words around those words and see if you can understand what the word means.
It also helps you understand what the word means when you read it in the sentence and then you read the definition too.
Yeah, that's a really good way to understand what a word means.
So you can pause the screen. There's the right answers. You can check your work. Make sure you got them right.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
So Lori said we're going to talk about writing today.
Yeah. So let's see if we can go to the next page.
Next page in your book.
119, I think.
Page 119 in your book.
Oh, it's actually 118 is the story
118
first.
looks like that.
Yeah.
Another story.
It's another story.
But at the top of that page,
above this story, there's some questions.
There's questions, yeah. So what we want you to do is, if you were in class, we'd have you talk to a partner and think about an emergency and then talk about these questions together.
Well, let's talk about what an emergency is again, just so we can sort of brainstorm some emergencies.
Yeah. So we're going to want to think about an emergency. So what is an emergency? So it's something that's unexpected.
Yeah, you don't know it's going to happen.
Yeah. And it's usually something that's serious or maybe dangerous, something bad, right?
Yeah, it's not unexpected and good.
Yeah.
It's not good news.
So, and it's something that needs to be taken care of right away. So usually
you have to do something.
So if there's a fire, you have to get out of the building. If there's
maybe call the firemen.
If your child falls out of a tree and breaks his arm, you have to go to the doctor or to the emergency room. It could be lots of things.
So sometimes they can be things that happen with nature, like natural disasters, like a flood. Like they have floods in Dallas pretty often, right?
Yes.
And storms. Remember last year we had that bad storm and lots of trees fell down in the road and people didn't have any electricity for a few days. That was an emergency. I think some of you had like trees fall on your building or your home. There can be, there's sometimes tornadoes, usually not in Dallas, but there can be tornadoes.
There was a tornado.
There was a tornado, yeah.
So if you get in an accident on the way home in your car, that's an emergency.
Yeah. I know lots of you have seen car accidents. Maybe you've been in a car accident.
So we want you to think about an emergency and then think about who did it happen to? What happened? These are the questions that are on your page there.
Right.
When did it happen? Where did it happen? How or why did it happen?
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you a story of something that happened to me. So
just one emergency.
Just an emergency. It's a story about an emergency that happened to me. Back when our children were 6 or 7 or 5, I don't know exactly how old they were.
They were little.
They were young. We had a house that had one of those, had an attic. And in the attic, you had a ladder that you pulled down from the ceiling.
What is an attic?
You pull down from the ceiling a stairway, and you go up the stairway, and it's between the house and the roof. It's that area up there. It's an attic. Above the ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
and in our attic was our air conditioning unit. So the air conditioning unit in the attic has a way that it gets rid of extra water. So there's water up there, and it gets rid of it by a drain. But in ours, the drain had become plugged. So
Stuck.
the water couldn't go out, so it would drip into our bathroom. So I went up in the attic and I put a pan underneath it at night, and every 4 or 5 hours I had to empty the pan out so that the water wouldn't drip until we got it fixed. So we figured out how to fix it, which ended up being a very easy fix. But so I got up early in the morning at 6 o'clock, and I went to empty this pan. I didn't have my glasses on because I didn't sleep with my glasses. And I went to empty this pan out of the attic. So I got it, I took it downstairs, I dumped it in the sink, I went back up the stairs, this pull-down stairway, and I put the pan away. Well, when I was coming back down the stairs, there was a metal rod that was connected to a spring that holds the stairs in place. And that
big metal spring.
Big metal spring and this metal rod that's connected to it. So my arm would be the metal rod, okay? And there was a screw on the end of it right there, and that screw came off. And that spring made that metal rod go like this.
Just like it was a knife, like cutting him.
Right there, it hit me right between the eyes. You see that?
That's terrible.
See that scar right there? That's where it hit me. If I'd had my glasses on, it would have broke them. Maybe the glasses would have gone in my eyes. Or if it had been over just a little bit, it could have gone right up through my eye into my brain. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, everybody was asleep. So I very quietly came down the stairs. It's not true.
No.
Lori
it really hurt. I mean, the doctor said it could have killed him because it was right by his brain. It cut all the way to the bone. So, it was really painful, right?
So there was blood everywhere.
He made a little noise.
All of a sudden, all the kids were up. Lori was up, looking over me. I was laying on the floor in the bathroom trying to get it to stop bleeding.
Yeah, we had to take him to the hospital, and he is fine. Thank God he is fine.
It was an emergency.
Yeah, it was an emergency.
So when did it happen? Well, it happened when I was fixing this, taking care of this other problem. When that happened, all of a sudden, bam, it hit me in the thing. So
it happened while we were sleeping.
Yeah, while they were sleeping. They were sleeping, and all of a sudden they heard this noise.
Yeah.
And it was me making noise.
Wow. Yeah.
Where did it happen? It happened when I was coming down the stairs. Who did it happen to? It happened to me.
Yeah, because then he fell the rest of the way down the stairs because the pain.
I don't think I fell.
Yeah,
I think I walked.
It's okay.
So why or how did it happen? It happened because that screw came off. And then that spring came up and hit me in the face. So anyway, think about an emergency for you so you can tell a story like that.
Yeah.
And maybe you tell that story first to your children in your language so that they hear this story.
So you think about all the details in the story.
And then we're going to end up having you write a story like that.
Mm-hmm.
But before we do that, let's look at an example of another story that's written.
When you think about these emergencies, I just talked about emergencies in nature, like the storms, but emergencies can also be any medical emergency too. Anything that happens, any problem, like heart attack or any medical thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody falls. And
somebody falls or.
Yeah. So this story that they have in the book is another fire story.
Right.
It says fire in our backyard.
I always like it when they include a picture in the story because I use all the clues I can get from the picture. That always gives you a lot of information, and I like to figure that out before I read it. So it looks like there's a family in this story.
Well, there's two couples we know.
Yeah.
They live next door to each
Maybe
other.
that's a family, maybe not.
There's a younger couple,
Mm-hmm.
and this fire happens in whose backyard? The younger couple's backyard or
No.
the older couple's backyard?
Yeah, it's in the older couple's backyard. Well, no, the fire's in the younger couple's backyard, but close to the older people's house.
Yep.
It looks like the younger couple, they were cooking outside.
So who is writing the story? Fire in our backyard. The younger couple.
Oh, the younger couple is writing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the firemen are in the younger couple's backyard.
Yep.
But the older woman, she looks like she was scared.
Maybe.
I bet probably everybody was a little scared.
Maybe.
That's what I think. But since the firemen are there, I think everything turned out
Everything
okay.
is probably all right.
Yeah. Okay, so
you can look on in your book.
yeah, you can look on in your book.
We're going to read this.
Yeah.
to you.
So while we're reading, I want you to think about those answers because they're going to the questions of all the details.
Yep. Who, what, when, where, why, or how.
Yeah. Okay, so one evening last summer, my husband and I were preparing dinner together. My husband was cooking outside, and I was setting the table inside. Suddenly, my husband ran into the kitchen, and he shouted,
Where? Oh, there's a fire in the backyard.
yeah. I ran outside, and I saw fire in the bushes next to our fence. I was really scared because my 70-year-old parents live next door. See, they are family.
Yes, they are. But we didn't know that.
No, we didn't know it. Luckily, my husband acted quickly. He called the fire department, and then he started putting water on the fire. The firefighters arrived quickly, and they easily put out the fire. They said a coal from the barbecue started it.
My parents were very surprised when they saw the firefighters. They were watching the news in the living room, and they never even knew. They never knew there was a problem. My father said, "Let's go back and watch the news. Maybe we're on TV."
Guess it's a good thing that that the younger couple noticed because
Yeah.
the older couple didn't even know.
Because when you look at the picture, the fire is very close to the older people's fence and their house.
Yeah.
If they hadn't seen it, maybe it would have caught the whole fence on fire and the house on fire. And they would have just watching TV and not even know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's some questions on the next page.
On page 119, you can look in your book, page 119,
Mhm.
looks like that. And
So you're talking about the questions at the top of the page,
yeah,
right?
at the very top where it says work with a partner and answer the questions. Again, you don't have a partner, so we'll just go over the questions with you.
Right.
Who was the story about? Probably the younger couple. Or the firefighters,
Maybe it's the
or
whole everybody in the story.
The couple,
Maybe this actually was
neighbors,
a family, right?
two neighbors, so they were a family.
Yeah, that's nice to have parents live that close. I wish our kids lived that close.
So when did it happen? Well, for the younger couple, it happened while they were preparing dinner. For the older couple, it happened while they were watching the news, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So this is when you use those sentences like those phrases like while and when, those clauses.
Right.
Yeah.
While the younger couple were fixing dinner, they noticed a fire in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So where did it happen?
Where did it happen?
In the backyard.
In the backyard, in the
Younger
couple's backyard.
backyard.
Yeah.
And what were the people doing when the story started?
Okay. What were the people doing? So I guess we're talking about all the people. So I guess let's start with this couple. What were they doing?
Husband was cooking outside and the wife was setting the table inside.
Mm-hmm. My husband was cooking outside. I was setting the table.
But what were the older couple doing?
So the older couple.
We didn't find out until almost the end of the story.
Mm-hmm. So it said, where did it say that?
They were watching the news in the living room.
Right here. They were watching the news in the living room.
What were the firemen doing? They were sitting around at their fire station, probably.
Probably. It doesn't
waiting
tell
for a
us,
phone
but
call.
yeah.
Doesn't tell us. It doesn't say what they were doing, does it?
Yeah, when the story started.
When the story started,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't say. But they were doing their job. They were waiting to be called. Yeah. And then what was the emergency? The fire in the bush.
Yeah, so that answers the question, what? So there was a fire that spread from the grill into the bushes.
Right.
Yeah.
And why was the writer scared? So who was writing the story?
Well, let's read the first sentence. It says, one evening last summer, my husband and I. So who is I?
The wife.
So that must be her, right?
The wife in the red shirt.
So, yeah, it's the woman in the red shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So why was she scared?
Is that the question?
Yeah, why was the writer scared?
Why was the writer scared?
She was scared because down here, my 70-year-old parents live next door.
Oh, yeah. I was really scared because my 70-year-old parents live next door.
And she knew the fire was very close to their house.
Mm-hmm.
So she was afraid for her parents, right?
Yeah.
And then how did the story end? The firemen put out the fire.
Yeah.
Everybody was okay.
Everyone's safe. And then at the very end, I think it says what
her father said, yeah.
Let's go back and watch the news. I think this is a joke here, right?
He's being funny.
Yeah, he says maybe we're on the TV. So he thinks maybe they're in the news.
Maybe somebody came by and saw the fire and put him on the news.
Yeah. So the good news is the firefighters put out the fire.
And everything was good.
Everything's okay.
Everything was fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so that story did a good job of including all the details, and it did answer questions like how, so and why did the fire spread? So I want you to notice, class, that it included a lot of words that end in ly, and we haven't really worked on that too much. Words like quickly, that tells you about the verb. So the husband acted quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And where's another one like that?
Easily.
Yeah. And the firefighters arrived quickly and they easily put out the fire. So easily is telling you how they were able to put out the fire, make the fire stop.
The verb would be a two-word verb, put out.
Mm-hmm.
They easily put it out.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and also this
suddenly
word suddenly tells about how the husband ran, how he ran into the kitchen.
It was just
yeah.
She was setting the table and not thinking anything was going on, and all of a sudden, right then, her husband came in.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh my! It was that emergency thing because it happened. It was unexpected. She didn't expect it, and then he came in. There was a dangerous situation because there was a fire, and they needed to act right away. They had to put the fire
They needed
out.
to act quickly.
Yep.
So those words that end in ly, those are words that tell you, they answer the question how.
Right. Often, yeah.
Often, yeah. And often you can take an adjective, like just the word quick or sudden, and put ly on the end of it, and that will change it into an adverb and answer that question.
So we just answered these questions on page 119 at the top, and then there's a table on page 119 right here, if you see it. And that table is going to be part of your homework. The next two sections are your homework. So this is to write a story yourself. So we ask you to be thinking about an emergency that you had. So in this table on page 119, you're not going to answer questions about these people here, right? You're going to answer people about who? About you.
So this chart or table is it's really a good way for you to organize your thinking before you write your story.
Right. So maybe take one time when you sit down. Well, first of all, you think about a story. Maybe you tell the story in your own language to your kids. That way they can learn about more about you, about things that happen. Because, sometimes when you're a child, you don't know things that happen to your parents. So maybe it's a good way for you to take some time during this time when you're all home to just talk to your kids about this.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to answer, but these are the questions. When you tell the story, you're going to know, well, when I tell a story, I do answer these questions. Who is it about? It's about me. Where did it happen? When did it happen? What were the people doing? What was I doing when the story started? What was the emergency?
Mm-hmm.
And how did the story end? So you're going to think through all those things. So you probably tell it in your own language, and you'll realize, oh, we do that in our own when we tell a story. That's what we do.
No.
And then you'll write those things down in the chart on page 119.
And you don't have to write a complete sentence there. Just a few words to help you remember.
Help you remember what you're doing. And then you get to write your own paragraph too about your story.
Right. You write a story.
And if you write it, take a picture of it and send it to us on a text. We'll read it and look at it.
Mm-hmm. We'd love to do that.
We'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
It would be.
All right. I hope you're doing well. So until next time.
Bye now.
Bye.